Welcome back to the Options Academy. The key to better understanding of the relationship between delta and your options can be found in one word: convergence. There are only a few simple facts you need to remember in order to understand the relationship between delta and options. 1. Options and their underlying markets are separate entities. 2. It is the option's desire to become one with its underlying market. 3. If at expiration the market reaches the option, they converge and become one. These three facts are at the core of the relationship between any option and its underlying market. In fact, the delta of an option is determined at any given time by answering the question, how far or how close is an option from converging with its underlying asset? Two things need to happen in order for the option to achieve its heart's desire and converge with its underlying market. Those two things separate the option from its underlying market and are preventing it from successfully converging: the distance of the option from the underlying market, time left until expiration. As long as these two factors exist, the option will not converge. In other words, as long as there's distance between the option and the underlying market, as long as the option is out of the money, and as long as there's still time left until expiration, the option will not completely converge with the underlying market. Therefore, we can deduce that an option will become one with the underlying market only at expiration. What this means to your delta and to your option is that your option will never, ever have a delta value of 1. It might have a value of 99.9, but your option will never have a delta of 1 because it needs to expire in order to achieve this value. Because the option is a derivative of the underlying market and because it is a separate entity from that underlying market, it will never move in the exact same extent as the underlying market. Like a child walking alongside his father, the child's steps will always be just a little shorter than his father's. In the same way, when the underlying market moves, the option will never gain or lose the same value as the market. The change in its value will always be less. Let's talk a bit about what happens to delta prior to expiration. Prior to expiration, the underlying market is like a magnet to the option. The closer it gets to the option, the more influence it has over it. The farther away it is from the option, the less influence it has on it. Prior to expiration, then, the closer the option is to converging with the underlying market, both in time left until expiration and in the distance of the option from the underlying market, the more the option's value will be influenced by the market and the higher the delta will become. The higher the delta becomes, its value will move in a more similar fashion to the underlying market. On the other hand, the farther away the option is from the converging with the underlying market, both in terms of time until expiration and the distance of the option from the market, the less it will be influenced by the market and the lower the delta will become. The lower the delta is, the option's value will move in a less similar fashion to the underlying market. Understanding how delta works can help you make real trading decisions and take concrete steps to manage your trade. Here are two examples. 1. Closing a far out of the money option or keeping it until expiration. When an option nears expiration, its delta increases because the time barrier, which prevents it from becoming one with the underlying asset, is quickly dissipating. If you put aside for a moment the distance of the option from the underlying market, the option's potential to move in a similar fashion to the underlying market, in the event the option becomes an in-the-money option, increases significantly and grows yet more with every day that passes until expiration. This spells risk. If an option is far out of the money and nears expiration, it has most likely lost most of its value. That means that if you sold the option and collected a premium, you probably made most of your profit on that specific option. Therefore, why take the risk? However small it seems that the market will make a sudden unexpected move and turn your almost worthless option to an option with high value and high delta. In addition, if the option is far out of the money and the delta on it's very low, it will not lose much more value, even if it has significant time left until expiration. Remember, the delta of an out-of-the-money option is low, and low delta means low change in the value of the option. It is our thinking, then, that a far out-of-the-money option should not be kept until expiration, and that it should be closed. Of course, there are cases where you might want to hold on to an option until expiration if the cost base is very tight and the profit potential assumes all options expire worthless. But generally speaking, We believe that it is a better practice to close an option prior to its expiration date. For our second example, let's look at the money credit spreads. Though we haven't covered the issue of spreads yet, we want to risk jumping ahead of ourselves here and briefly mention the relationship between delta and spreads. For now, what you should remember is that in terms of time exposure to the market, it is true that the more time you spend in a trade, the more likely the market will turn against your position. However, time to some extent also serves as your protector when you trade with credit spreads. This is because the more time an option has, the lower its delta becomes. And the lower the delta of an option is, the less value it will gain if the market moves against you. At times, option sellers who use credit spreads experience an adverse move in the market. This may turn a spread that was created as an out-of-the-money spread to an at-the-money spread. And this is exactly the spot where understanding delta may prove beneficial. If you would take an at-the-money credit spread and examine how it behaves when it turns into an in-the-money spread, you will find an interesting fact. You will find that the closer the spread is to expiration, the more value it gains. You will also find that the more time to expiration the spread has, the less value it gains. Simply look at two spreads with identical in-the-money spreads and in different months of expiration and compare their values. You will immediately see that the spread which is closer to expiration has more value to it. For instance, if the market, the S&P 500, is trading at the 1100 level, and you would look at the 1050 times 1075 spread, 1 month out in time, 2 months out in time, and 3 months out in time, you will find that spread, which has only 30 days to expiration, has more value than the exact same spread with 60 or 90 days to expiration. Several paragraphs earlier, we explained that options seeking to converge with the underlying market, that this convergence can only occur at expiration, and that it can only occur when the option is in the money. This is exactly the reason for the above phenomenon. The conclusion then is that if you want to be more conservative, or if you want your position to gain less if the market continues the adverse move against your position, you should consider moving your spread to a point further out in time. With this note, we will conclude our presentation of delta. You are very likely to hear about delta when a conversation turns to delta neutral trading. See our article and presentation about delta neutral and iron condors. And when you start creating calendar spreads to benefit from higher delta versus lower delta, see our article and presentation about calendar spreads. As always, if you have any questions at all about this presentation, please email us or call us. In the meantime, here's to your success, and remember, there is a substantial risk of loss in trading futures options. Remember that past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results. And remember that only risk capital should be used. Hope to see you again soon.